Motley Crue just got sued, but this statement shocked everyone. "I'm not a doormat." And what happened next changed everything.
Apparently, I don't know if Nikki called or somebody from that camp called Tim Heine back, and they're like, why would we thank John on our record? We didn't thank Vince on the one we did with fucking John. And it was just like this.
The world of rock music has always been filled with drama, intensity, and larger-than-life personalities. But sometimes, the biggest stories don't come from the stage. They come from behind the scenes. Recently, headlines began circulating about a legal dispute involving the iconic band Motley Crue and a former vocalist, sparking conversations across the music industry and among fans worldwide. At the center of the controversy is a powerful statement: "I'm not a doormat." Those words alone have captured attention, hinting at deeper tensions, unresolved conflicts, and a story that goes beyond contracts and courtrooms. It suggests a personal struggle, one that reflects not just a professional disagreement, but a fight for respect, recognition, and identity. Motley Crue, known for its explosive performances and rebellious image, has built a legacy over decades. Their journey has never been without turbulence. From lineup changes to public controversies, the band has consistently remained in the spotlight. But this situation feels different. It's not about wild behavior or rock star excess. It's about accountability and boundaries. The former singer involved in the dispute reportedly feels that their contributions and role were not properly acknowledged or respected. While details of the case remain complex, the emotional tone of the situation is clear. When someone says they refuse to be treated like a doormat, it speaks to a feeling of being overlooked, undervalued, or even taken advantage of. In the music industry, these kinds of conflicts are not uncommon. Behind every successful band lies a network of agreements, creative contributions, and business arrangements. When those elements fall out of balance, tensions can rise quickly. What starts as a disagreement can evolve into something much bigger, sometimes even leading to legal action. Fans often see bands as a unified force, a group moving in harmony. But the reality is often more complicated. Each member brings their own vision, expectations, and personal experiences. Over time, differences can grow, especially when communication breaks down or when one party feels their voice is not being heard. This situation also raises questions about how artists are treated once they leave a band. Does their legacy remain connected to the group? Are their contributions fully recognized? And perhaps most importantly, how are they remembered by both the industry and the fans? For the former singer, this moment seems to be about more than just legal outcomes. It's about reclaiming a narrative. It's about making it clear that their role mattered, that their voice had value, and that they deserve to be seen as more than just a footnote in the band's history. On the other side, Motley Crue continues to stand as one of the most recognizable names in rock. Their brand, their music, and their identity are deeply established. Situations like this can challenge that image, but they also highlight the complexities of maintaining a long-standing career in an industry that is constantly evolving. As the story continues to unfold, one thing is certain. This isn't just about a lawsuit. It's about the human side of music, the emotions, the struggles, and the need for respect. It reminds us that behind every song, every performance, and every headline, there are real people navigating difficult situations, and sometimes the loudest statements aren't made on stage. They're made when someone decides to stand up and say, "I'm not a doormat." As discussions around the dispute continue, Fans and observers are beginning to look beyond the headlines and into the deeper meaning of the situation. What does it really mean when an artist reaches a breaking point? And why do these kinds of conflicts resonate so strongly with the public? The phrase, "I'm not a doormat," carries weight because it reflects a universal feeling. It's something many people can relate to, whether in their personal lives or professional environments. It speaks to the moment when someone decides they will no longer tolerate being overlooked or dismissed. In that sense, this story goes beyond music. It becomes a reflection of broader human experiences. In the entertainment industry, power dynamics often play a significant role. Established brands and groups can sometimes overshadow individual voices, especially those who are no longer part of the current lineup. For former members, maintaining recognition can be challenging, particularly when the narrative is controlled by those still in the spotlight. This is why moments like this matter. They bring attention to perspectives that might otherwise remain unheard. They challenge audiences to reconsider what they know about a band's history and the people who helped shape it. At the same time, it's important to recognize that disputes like this are rarely simple. There are always multiple sides, multiple viewpoints, and layers of complexity that aren't immediately visible. Legal actions, by their nature, involve detailed arguments and interpretations that go far beyond public statements. For Motley Crue, this situation represents another chapter in a long and eventful history. Bands that endure for decades often face internal and external challenges, and how they respond to those challenges can influence how they are perceived moving forward. Maintaining a legacy is not just about past success, it's also about how current issues are handled. For the former singer, this moment may represent an opportunity to redefine their place in that legacy. By speaking out and taking a stand, they are asserting their own narrative, one that emphasizes dignity and self-respect. It's a reminder that even in an industry driven by fame and recognition, personal values still matter. The reaction from fans has been mixed, as is often the case with situations like this. Some express support for the artist speaking out, appreciating the courage it takes to challenge a powerful entity. Others remain loyal to the band, focusing on their music and achievements rather than the controversy. This divide highlights an interesting aspect of fan culture. Music creates strong emotional connections, and those connections can influence how people interpret events. For some, the band's legacy is untouchable. For others, the story of an individual fighting for recognition becomes equally compelling. As the story develops, it will likely continue to spark conversation. Not just about the specifics of the dispute, but about larger themes: fairness, recognition, and the importance of standing up for oneself. These are topics that extend far beyond the music industry, making the situation relevant to a much wider audience. In the end, this isn't just a story about a lawsuit. It's a story about identity, respect, and the courage to speak out. It's about what happens when someone decides they've had enough of being overlooked and chooses to make their voice heard. And whether the outcome is decided in a courtroom or through public perception, one message has already come through. Clearly, no one wants to be treated like they don't matter, because in any field, in any situation, there comes a point where a person has to draw a line and say, without hesitation, "I'm not a doormat." As the situation continues to unfold, attention is now shifting toward what comes next for both sides. Legal processes can take time, and while the final outcome remains uncertain, the impact of the story is already being felt. Conversations about fairness, respect, and recognition are spreading far beyond the immediate circle of fans and into the wider creative community. For many artists, this moment serves as a reminder of how important it is to clearly define roles, contributions, and expectations from the very beginning.